Hey everybody, welcome to this edition of Family by Design. I have the opportunity to be able to share some things that I'm really passionate about, and this is one of the few platforms that we have that doesn't get edited, and so we just took an opportunity, Liz and I, to talk about a little bit of our views, but really just taking the opportunity with our children to not keep quiet about political things. There's a lot of evil in this world, and truth is what sets us free, and information is powerful. And so we need to be on the right side of these things. So just listen, be blessed, take away some things you can that will help you, that will minister to you, that will encourage you to be bold in your faith and bold concerning things of what's going on in this evil world we live in. You are your kids' first shepherd, first pastor. You have the ability to help them and minister to them. Be blessed as you listen.
So it is getting to be around the time of elections, and so there's so much like heightened political climate that is going on right now, and I think it does us, I don't know, justice, maybe justice.
First of all, I want to say something.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to talk about this because I didn't bring it up. You did.
You
said we should talk about this. And also on this podcast platform, I can say anything that I want, and it doesn't get blurted out. Now, I might tick off some of the people that listen to it, but I don't really care about that so much.
So this is unfiltered.
Yeah. We can talk about the difference.
We don't have to have any political correctness.
We can talk about the difference between people that are blinded versus not blinded. Democrats, I can say that. I'm just going to say Democrats because I don't want to be dishonoring.
Okay.
Even though they are dishonorable people. But
all right,
because you have a party that was started by a racist bigot, bad root, bad fruit, and people that are like, I'm a Democrat, but I'm a Christian. We have an audience in here, but they say that, and it's like, I heard a man say one time, you can be a Democrat and be a Christian, but you can't be a Democrat and be a disciple.
Oh,
because as soon as you start looking into what they stand for, and what they're against, you realize that they're against everything biblical.
Right.
And I'm not that keen on Republicans either, on a lot of them.
Right.
But at least the party platform basically stands for things that are good. So if those are the options you have, then, I hate to say you take the lesser of two evils, but you got it. Here's where we're getting at. I interrupted you because I'm so excited to talk about this. I'm allowed to release my justice.
Yes.
On this podcast. Mostly I have to be nice and quiet, even though I'm not. I should be more that way, but this time I don't have to worry about it.
That's right.
Yeah. And so we're just going to talk about the fact that you should talk to your kids about these things.
Moral standards about what you believe in, about what the parties believe in, about
they say you're not supposed to talk about politics,
righteousness,
religion, and money. Those are three of the most important things you should talk to your kids about.
That's right.
We talk about the law of first mention, especially when it comes to sex.
Right.
But the law of first mention when it comes to political, and a lot of things, it's not even a political view. That's not the issue. It's a biblical view.
Yes, we need to teach them
You have to help your kids understand that there are certain party platforms that hold, and not just to that's not, good scriptural doctrinal position. We're talking about they are anti-God. They are anti-Christ, and we have people that claim to be believers that are voting for them. Why? Because nobody ever explained to them any different.
Yeah, and there's some households too that are split where you have one's hardcore Democrat, one's hardcore Republican, and then they won't talk about it or they'll fight about it, and so that's probably not a great place to bring your kids to. But I think right now, especially with our children, there's so much, and we've said this before, they are faced with these, I don't want to say that they're truths, but these realities that are happening in the world around us. And if we are silent and we say nothing, then they're going to just go with whatever the world is saying to them versus what we're saying to them. And what
God's word says.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we need to be able to lead them and guide them into truth and into truth about what the word says, so that they can make right decisions.
And I feel like this needs to be approached head on, and let me just say this, and then we'll jump back into this, is that when you have kids that are older, that maybe if you have kids that are older and you didn't instill some of these things, and we're not really talking about politics. We're really talking about our government, and we're talking about moral, righteous issues. But then it does bleed over into the political realm, if you want to say it that way. Sometimes people have kids that have very opposing views than they do, and I'm pretty bombastic. Is that the word?
I've never heard that word before.
I think it's like boisterous, not bombastic. That is a word too. I'm going to look that up here in a minute. But I'm very boisterous when it comes to this and very strong about these things. But Jim, when you go to deal, and here's where I was getting to, when you go to deal with people in your family, particularly your kids, especially if they're older, we should always stay in honor and realize that it's really the evil behind the people that is the problem and not the people, even though they have actually become evil. And the Bible talks about all through, especially the Old Testament, about taking note of those evil people and not falling prey to them. And so you can call people evil that are evil, and that's what we're dealing with nowadays. But you don't want to isolate your children, especially if you have older children, isolate them or turn them off to truth because you are so dogmatic about it.
Yeah, that's right. And, I think letting them ask questions. There's so many things happening when things come up. Let them ask questions, even if they seem like hard questions, and then start steering them in truth. Like, why do you say that they're evil? Why are you calling Democrats bad? Why do you think abortion is bad? Like, our children need to know what abortion is. They need to know, all these things, and we need to be able to tell them and point them the truth from the Word of God so that they know why it is that they're standing up for what it is that they're standing up for. And sometimes I think as believers, like, we will tend to want to try to pull ourselves out of so much, and we do need to shield our children from the evil and from like the bad things that are going on. But then we have to have this balance where we don't shield them too much and take them out of the world so that they're naive, and then when they start being faced with these realities, they don't know how to respond to them. Because it's not the people that we're against, it's the evil or the things that they're standing for that we're against. And then I think you have to advocate for truth. You have to show them the way, because sometimes I think too, if we're not careful, what's the balance between praying for our leaders and staying in honor with the leaders that are over us?
Yeah,
and
that's
then
a 4-part podcast.
Yeah,
but
advocating for the change. Like, we can't want something and then not be proactive at doing anything. And this is why I think saying that we as believers or the church should stay out of politics or out of government is the wrong thing.
It's totally the wrong
and
perspective. It's the reason why our country is in the shape that it's in right now, because for years you had preachers standing up and saying, "Oh, we're not going to get involved in politics. That's messy business, and that's not where the church is supposed to be. We just need to preach the gospel." And it's like, great, you're staying in your little circles in the church and talking about how wonderful Jesus is, and that's all great and fine and well. But at the end of the day, nobody went out, and this was true for a long period of time. Things are changing, but nobody went out into the marketplace, into the government, into society, and influenced the world like it needed to be, and influenced the government arena, the political arena, like they needed to. And it was almost, it wasn't overnight. It was like a frog in boiling water, but it's almost seemed like overnight. Our country on every level was being stolen from us on a moral level, on an education level, on the media level, all the 7 spheres, the 7 mountains that we talk about. Those things have been overrun by the world, and there's a system that's operating in the world, and that system, as long as good men do nothing, then what was that?
Evil prevails.
Edmund Burke, I think, is the one that said that. When good men do nothing, then evil prevails. So you have ministers in the churches that are saying from the pulpit, like, oh, we're not, whatever, blah, 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 and they stay neutral. And even to this day, so many Christians in America, they didn't even vote. We have one of the greatest privileges in this country to be able to go. Now, I believe that there's some things that happened with our election stuff where, right. I know because I received a prophetic word and then I had confirmation of that prophetic word. I am 100% convinced that the elections were stolen the last time around. Oh, I love this podcast platform.
This could be a really long.
I am 100% convinced that the elections were stolen. I have no doubt about that. Probably most everybody listening to me would agree with this. And I think it was with the voting machines. I think that they had dead people voting. I think that the mail-in ballots were a problem. The fact that they don't have voter ID. There are all these things. You have to have your ID to vote. I'm sorry, your ID to do almost everything except to vote. Almost anything you do. And that is probably one of the most important things that we are able to do in our society. And they're saying, oh, no, you don't have to have an ID. Just come on in and vote. Like, that's nonsense. That's not everywhere, but it's a lot of places, and it's nonsense.
Right.
And so there are really evil, wicked people that are looking to undo what God has given us. Now, the way our country came about, there were definitely things that were not right. And when God does things through people, he never does anything perfect. And so you have people now that they're going, oh, the founding fathers were actually for slavery. And so that goes to show you that everything that they did was wrong. No, they definitely didn't do some things that should have been done to deal with the slavery issue and truly making all men equal. That's why there was a civil war that was fought, right. And that's why the civil rights movement had to take place. And I thank God that those things happened to bring us to the place that we are today, when we're genuinely people of color, women have the same rights as everybody else. Like, right. that definitely needed to happen. But the founding documents that were there are what allowed those things to happen.
Right.
Our the Declaration of Independence and the the Constitution and then the Bill of Rights, those were founding things that brought about the continued change that needed to happen in our country to bring us to have the freedoms that we have. And our kids need to know those things. Mm-hmm. They're even doing things in school, such as they don't want to teach kids cursive.
Yeah.
And the agenda behind it, it's not like, oh, nobody uses cursive anymore. I would be fine with that. But the agenda behind it is they want to get to a place to where
you can't read it.
To where we have these documents that look like total foreign documents to our kids because they don't know how to read cursive. Now, will they ever succeed at that? I don't know. But the truth is that they're doing everything that they can to try to keep generations from knowing the truth about what God gave us concerning this God-breathed, God-ordained country. Mm-hmm. We have to talk to our kids about these things. Talk to them about Republicans and Democrats. Talk to them about those party platforms. When you're voting for a Democrat, you're not just voting for that person. Because you might have somebody who you think is a really nice Democrat, and maybe they are a nice Democrat. You might think that they have some good morals. They might have some good morals. But when it comes down to it, those political candidates that are running for whatever office, whatever party they are representing, on some level they're going to have to toe that party line. Go and read and study on what the Democrats, what they stand for. Go and find out what they stand for, because it's nothing godly. As a matter of fact, several years ago, maybe it's been 8 or 10 years ago, but at one of the Democratic National Conventions, they were talking about whether to take God out of some of their language that was in some of their language. And they stood up at the National Convention and said, we've actually voted to keep him in. And the people in the convention booed because they were keeping God in the language. Democrats as a whole, now from the beginning, like I said, Andrew Jackson was one of the starters of the Democratic Party. He was nothing but a racist bigot. He was a terrible individual. He was full of evil. He did not like black people, and he was totally on board for slavery. He is the one that started something. Bad root, bad fruit. The Democratic Party is not the party of freedom. It's not the party of slavery. And I'm not saying the Republican Party fully is the party of freedom, but it is definitely the party of anti-slavery. It was Abraham Lincoln and the Republican Party that led the what happened in the Civil War to the place that it needed to come to where the war was won and the Emancipation Proclamation was delivered, that started the process of people really being able to be, black people in particular, to be free and for slavery to be illegal. Mm-hmm. And so you have people that are all twisted up in their thinking, and they actually think that the Democrats are for black people. The Democrats are not for African Americans. They're not for black people. They use them. They lie to them. They twist things. They are also against people that are pro-life. They are a pro-choice organization. Their platform, they see it always gets mislabeled, and they say, well, we're for women's rights.
Right.
Well, then it makes it sound like that Republicans or anybody else isn't for women's rights. And they call the ability to take a baby and slaughter it inside of the womb a woman's right. And I saw a post one time, and it said that if it was your body, then it would be you that would be being killed.
Right.
You know, and so anyways, so they take and they twist all of these things. And when you have somebody that says we're for women's rights, well, I mean, that sounds pretty good. I mean, I'm also for women's rights. I think women should have just as much right as anybody else. And so, you know, anyways, the list goes on and on and on of the things that, you know, just take the Democratic Party that they stand for that are pure evil. And it's amazing to me that we have an entire, I mean, really our country is not really, its founding documents are based on the Bible, but as far as the way that people act and their worldview, it is not a Christian nation in that sense.
Right.
And so we have an entire generation of people that do not have a Christian worldview. They do not understand our founding documents, nor how our founding documents came about. Mm-hmm. And therefore, we have an entire generation of younger people that are growing up and they're voting, and they are okay with these evil people running our country. Socialism. We have people that are like, oh, I'm actually for socialism. You don't even have to get biblical to understand that. That's just stupid. Socialism is directly responsible for the deaths of millions of people because you have these tyrannical nut jobs that rise up in these countries, and they go to run these countries, and they are socialist. They use socialist and Marxist ideology, mm-hmm. and they use them to gain political power, to gain money, and to use people, to control people. And then the whole thing falls apart, and millions of people die in the process because of it. Right. You look at all of these wars that have gone on, World War I, World War II. A lot of this, their ideology was a very backdoor, although some of it's very in your face, I'm a socialist kind of thing. Right. And it ended in tons of death. And then you have people standing up on college campuses today that are hearing things funded by often taxpayer dollars, just complete, I'm trying to be nice, but complete evil people standing in classrooms, calling themselves professors, telling people that they need to be open to the idea of socialism because it actually is a more fair way for things. No. Socialism puts it eliminates the middle class and makes it makes two classes. It gets a bunch of people really rich and a whole lot more people really, really poor. That's what happens under socialism. And, you know, people lose all kinds of the benefits of having just a capitalist society.
Yeah, common people.
Which is actually more fair.
Right. Yeah, I was going to say, fair. Let's talk about fairness. It's fair for you to sit and do nothing while other people work. No. What happened on the very first settlement when nobody did anything or only a few people were doing things, like everybody died because only a few people worked and then everybody tried to reap the benefits of a few people working.
That's exactly right. Yes.
The whole colony died.
Many people don't know this, but when before America was founded, but we had during the colonial times.
Yeah.
There was a period of time where they tried a socialistic mindset.
Yeah.
Just from not from a
everybody can get everything.
Yes, it was
It'll
more
be
from that
fine.
standpoint, not from like someone trying to be a dictator.
Right.
I don't perceive that from
no,
what I've
it was
read
more
heard.
like.
But it was more like, you know, let's try this so that everybody's taken care of. And what happened is that more people actually ended up dying.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not a not against taking care of people in our society. I think that there are people that we need to take care of, people that were born with diseases and handicaps and things like that, I think they're ultimately, their families really need to take care of them ultimately. Right. And then, there's people that have been wounded in war fighting for our country. We need to take care of those people. But the whole welfare system,
let's talk about justice reform. We're not taking care of our veterans, but we're taking care of
illegal immigrants.
Yes, and then just people, have as many babies as you want. You can live off the government and it'll be totally fine.
Hey,
and then
women work in that system right now.
Yes, and I just the scales are so unbalanced in our country. Yeah. And so partly, I think we need to raise this next generation knowing truth, having good, sound biblical doctrine, and we need to teach them to begin to what legislation should be, what the judicial process is supposed to be, encourage them to run and be state representatives, to be governors, to be mayors.
Let me give you a biblical perspective on how important it is what you're saying. When you talk to Christians about these kind of things, they're like, "Oh, the end is coming. It doesn't matter."
But it's not yet.
But listen. Hear this, okay? People have a tendency to view eschatology, which is end time events or the study of end times. They have a tendency to view it through their current world, through their current society. What if now I believe that the return of the king is close. I do believe that, but I don't know that. All right. What if it's actually further out than what we think, but because Christians aren't doing what they're supposed to do, our country falls way premature? I mean, eventually the whole world is going to fall under a false one world ruler, which is the Antichrist, for a period of time until Jesus comes and he kicks his butt and then takes over the world and everything's great. That is going to happen. But what if that is 100 years away? Well, just what if? I know some people say, "Oh no, he's coming back in 2 years." I don't know that. Quit trying to put a date on it. What if, because of what we have done in our country, that America could have stood and been a great nation for decades later? But instead, we just sat back and did nothing, said nothing, didn't raise our kids according to the Word of God, according to biblical principles and the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights and all the founding things that He gave us, because we thought the end was coming and it didn't matter, when indeed the end was coming many years later. But America fell sooner because we viewed everything biblically through an American worldview. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. You picking up what I'm putting down? Yeah. People are like, "Oh, look at the election cycle. It's the end." Listen,
it might
maybe
not
the
yet.
end is coming, but maybe it's not coming as soon as
and
we
so
thought.
And
we could preserve this nation if we will preserve our children.
That's right.
Got to talk to them about these things. People are scared to talk to their kids. I know so many people that are our age. I have met dozens. So I know if I've met dozens, I know there's tens of thousands more that their parents never talk to them about anything political at all. Nothing concerning the government, nothing concerning, and sometimes it's because they don't know. You got to educate yourself.
That's right.
People are like, "Well,
you can't
the
stand
Democrats
around."
No, the Democrats are evil. Their party's evil, and the people that stand for those things are evil. Period.
And so if you're going to educate,
how could you not know that?
Yourself, then you should continue to educate your family.
People also need to know this.
Well, and I was just going to say, you can't...
I'm pretty hyped up here.
You are. You can't complain about something and then just do nothing.
Do nothing, right.
That's empty words. So if you want to start seeing change, start in your community. Start running for commissioner and school boards and different things. Start making
activated in it.
A change in your community, and then you'll see what will happen from that place. And then when you hear people who are like, "Oh, I'm thinking about maybe running for this office," or "What do you think about?" Yes, celebrate them doing that. Say yes, educate, because then here's the thing, that you have people in your midst and in your community that have educated about the issues in certain arenas, and then they can begin to bring back information to you so you can start helping other people to understand that. And then that's how we see change happening. So it's so important, even at a young age, start advocating truth, start teaching your kids about real biblical truth. And then if they are like showing interest and like something they're passionate about, then help them pursue that. Like if they want to see some justice or something change, or they're burdened in the right direction, help them.
Yeah.
Help them.
Yeah. Sometimes people will take, they'll see a kid that is wired one way, but then they don't help direct that kid. Sometimes they'll fight against it, or they just leave it alone.
Or they're
completely.
scared because you don't know anything about it. But I think as a parent, we should, do due diligence to at least like help them and put them around people who know.
Is people that are standing in the streets, and marching for the right to kill their own baby. They're rioting, they're looting. What I see is a bunch of fatherless brats who never had anybody help them take the passion that's in them and direct it in a proper way.
That's good.
And some of it is because they were raised in a terrible home, but some of it is because they were raised in a home with parents that were silent about these things.
Right.
Like, we do not have the luxury to remain silent on issues that are important. Now, you don't, again, and I looked up the word, it's not bombastic, but it's bombastic. And here's what the word bombastic means. It means, and if I can get rid of this advertisement here really quickly, I looked up Merriam-Webster dictionary, and it means, if I can get to it, here we go. Marked by or given to speech or writing that is given exaggerated importance by artificial or empty means. Marked by or given to bombast.
Wow.
Pompous, overblown.
Okay.
So I am not bombastic.
Okay.
But I am
boisterous.
Very boisterous is the better word for it.
Okay.
So anyways, we got to talk to our kids about this stuff. There's just no excuse. The longer you wait, even when our kids are younger, and I haven't always done it right, but when our kids are younger, I'm very vocal about, look at what the Democrats are doing, and look at the things that they're standing for. It's nothing but pure evil, because this is what the Bible says. Let me say this too, is that it's not really even a Democrat issue. They're an evil manifestation of a bigger evil thing.
Right.
And it's interesting because I've had people call me a conspiracy theorist before, and then I've kept my mouth shut, and then I've watched how my conspiracy theories have actually become factual truth. And so, anyways, there is a ploy that is bigger than and I believe we need to vote and all that, and vote godly, vote righteous, but there is a bigger ploy on a one world government system. And let me say this too, and if you don't like, I don't really care. You don't have to email me or text me or anything after listening to this and tell me that you don't like what I had to say. It's fine. You just, whatever, you believe what you want to believe. But when Donald Trump, who I believe is a very rough around the edges guy, and definitely what you wouldn't call like the darling of America, but I believe he was anointed just like Cyrus was anointed to lead the children of Israel, or to help bring them freedom, right? Cyrus, yeah. I believe that Donald Trump was anointed for that. And the global, there is, and if you're like, oh, I'm not into that whole new world order stuff. Listen, go back and listen. And to Bush, Clinton, Carter, I think Ronald Reagan probably was a real true American president. I think JFK was. Beyond that, maybe the one that would have come previous to that might have been Abraham Lincoln. I don't know. Most of these, quote, U.S. presidents are part of the New World Order. They talk about it in their speeches. It's not conspiracy theory. When Donald Trump came into office in 2016, he set that agenda back by at least a decade. Why do you think they're fighting so hard to come against him? Why do you think they keep manufacturing? Listen, you have people that are in the, and I'm going to say this last thing, and then we're gonna close here. You have people in the political arena that are known felons that have evil things that they have done, illegal things that they have done, and nobody brings them to trial. Nobody comes and brings their stuff to trial and actually prosecutes them according to law. And then you have a man who I'm not saying is perfect, but doesn't have anywhere close to the garbage that they have going on. and they have done everything they possibly can, and they couldn't do it in the court of law, so then they tried to assassinate him. And if you don't think that there was a plan behind that, well, then there was another assassination attempt. Why? Because they fear that he will strike down this global agenda, this one world monetary system, this one world government that's been in plans, it's been written about, it's been talked about. You don't even have to take my word for it. You can go and look up. You can find out that this is true. There is an evil that hates our country because America as a nation still is a beacon of hope and a beacon of light in this world that needs to continue to stand and fight and be what God designed her to be. All right. So anyways, we are out of time. We've gone way over, but thank you for allowing us to share some of those things. I know you might think, well, that's a political view, but everything I shared, it's not about politics. It's about what's right. It's about what's righteous. And we need to talk to our kids about these things. Do it in love, do it in wisdom. But you know what? If you're fired up about it, let your kids see your passion. Let people see your passion. Walk in love, walk in unity. But let people see, particularly your children, your family, let them see and know and hear the things that are of truth. So we love you. Bless you. Thanks for sitting and listening to us be vocal about these things. This is one of the few platforms that we don't get edited or bleeped out like we're saying a cuss word when we just speak the truth. So we're happy to do that on here. Bless you guys. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Family by Design. I pray that you were blessed as you listen to the word of the Lord for your life today. I want to encourage you to go on and leave us a review and a 5-star rating. If this ministry is blessing you, go to our website at www.wartmen.org. There you can find more resources, and you can also consider partnering with this ministry. If you like what we're doing, we just pray that you would at least join us in prayer and consider supporting us financially as we take the gospel deep into the hearts of people. Gospel preached, hearts awakened, and nations reformed.